Ben!
Jacob,
Ben!
how are you doing?
Baruch Hashem, how are you doing?
Pretty good. I need a second just to grab my headphones. So I'll be back in a second, okay?
You go grab your headphones. I'm gonna sit here chewing my candy bar.
Cool. Just a sec. Okay, change your plans. I don't need my headphones.
Okay. What happened?
I thought I needed my headphones. I thought my wife told me to grab headphones, but she needs hers. So
Aha. Well,
it's marriage communication problems. You see.
when your wife says, you should listen to your wife.
Mm-hmm. How are you doing?
Baruch Hashem. Thank God. New Year.
Correct.
So for those who don't know, the Jewish New Year, there are 4 different Jewish New Years every year.
We're gonna have one this month. Right?
Right. We're coming up on Tu B'Shvat, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Tu B'Shvat Higia. So that is on the 15th of the month of Shvat is the New Year of trees. Yeah. So lots of new beginnings. And every new beginning should come with new determination to do good and flee from evil. Are you doing good and fleeing from evil, Ben?
I will, as much as I could, as the best as I can.
Ah, good man. Okay. Do you want to start or should I start?
I can start.
Go ahead and start.
Okay, so we are at 43.
We are at 43. At least that's what I found when I looked.
Yeah. Cool. So, והנה על יראה תתאה זו, שהיא לקיום מצוותיו יתברך בבחינת סור מרע ועשה טוב. Concerning this level of יראה תתאה, which is lower fear, which is necessary for the fulfillment of his commandments in both areas of turn away from evil and do good. אמרו, אם אין יראה, אין חוכמה. It was said by our sages, if there is no fear, there is no wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
If fear of God is lacking, then one cannot properly fulfill the Torah and mitzvot. ויש בה בחינת קטנות ובחינת גדלות. And in this lower level of evil, it comprises a mode of smallness and a mode of greatness.
Mm-hmm.
דיינו, כשנמשכת בחינת יראה זו מתבוננות בגדולת השם, this means that when this category of lower level of evil is a result of contemplation on the greatness of God, that he feels all worlds, דאהו ממלא כל עלמין, ומהארץ לרקיע מהלך תף שנה. What is תף כף?
Taf Kuf.
תף קוף, כף, I don't know.
500.
500.
Taf is 400 and Kuf is 100. 400 plus 100 is 500.
Nice. וכולי, ובין רקיע לרקיע, כולי. As it says, and from the earth to the heavens is a distance of 500 years, and the distance from one heaven to the next is also a journey of 500 years. רגלי החיות כנגד כולן וכולי, and the feet of the angels called chayot measure up to them all. Interesting. I don't know exactly what that means.
Neither do I. Yeah.
וכן, השתלשלות כל העולמות למעלה מעלה עד רום המעלות. And similarly, with one's contemplation on the involvement of all the worlds, one above the other to the topmost heights, of the most spiritual worlds.
So, I mean, without detailing exactly what that means, I mean, he's
Yeah.
talking about, um, he is talking about realizing the greatness of God and how, things in a sense, right? From,
Yeah.
from the greatest to the least, right? And I mean, so, I mean, in a more modern sense, we would talk about, like we're we're on this tiny rock in this tiny solar system. And
Yeah, Rambam.
yeah,
Like, yeah, no God, and yeah, if you understand how implausible it is that we're here on this rock by knowing cosmology and math,
yeah,
then you will gain that kind of awe.
awe is correct. Yes.
Yep. אף על פי כן, נקרא יראה זו יראה חיצונית ותתאה, מאחר שנמשכת מהעולמות. Nevertheless, this fear is called an external and inferior fear, יראה תתאה, since it is derived from the worlds, from understanding the greatness of God as a result of meditating upon the divine life force which animates them. שהם לבושים של המלך קדוש ברוך הוא, אשר מסתתר ומתעלם ומתלבש בהם להחיותם ולקיימם, להיות יש מאין וכו'. For they are the garments of the king, the Holy One, blessed be he, who conceals and hides and clothes himself in them, in these worlds, to animate them and give them existence, that they may exist ex nihilo. And can you scroll down a little bit? רק שהיא השער והפתח לקיום התורה והמצוות. It is only that this fear serves as the gate and entrance to the performance of Torah and mitzvot. Okay, so this is kind of, this is how you get into it. אך היראה הילאה, יראה בושת. However, as for יראה הילאה, a fear stemming from a sense of shame before God's greatness. ויראה פנימית שהיא נמשכת מפנימית האלוהות שבתוך העולמות. And an inner fear that derives from the inward aspects of godliness within the worlds. Can I read this note?
Of course you can read this note.
Wherein the person is cognizant of the inward and essential aspects of godliness, and not only of the external qualities of godliness which are clothed in all the worlds. The worlds are wholly nullified before this inward aspect of godliness, with a complete and total nullification. Bitul bimetziut. Awareness of this higher level of nullification leads to the higher level of fear. Okay.
So
yeah.
we always say that something that is lesser is talui b'davar, and something that is greater is eino talui b'davar, right? If it's something that's dependent on something, or it's not dependent upon something, right? So we talk about lesser love and lesser fear as things which are dependent on other things, right? Either recognizing God's greatness or being fearful of punishment or seeking reward, right? Whereas when we talk about more spiritual, higher matters, they're things that come without, they're from, in a sense, an inner aspect, in that they're not dependent on individual things.
Yeah. One of my favorite examples is Rabbi Sachs talking about the relationship between Yitzchak and Esav, Isaac and Esau, and how it can seem like, why would Isaac love Esau? He disappointed him many times, and it would seem like he shouldn't really care about him as much or love him as much as he does, but he explains how because Isaac loves him because he is his child. It's not dependent on the behavior of the child. He just loves him because he's his child. And the way that Sachs talks about it, I recommend listening to that.
Yeah.
It's very powerful.
I mean, I kind of joke, but like sometimes I tell people, I love you, but just because God said I have to.
And it's funny because in some ways it sounds like it's lower than the love that, like, I love you because of something specific that I recognize or something specific.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, so it's not as intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. I don't know. It's hard to.
No, I mean that is actually a higher form of love. Is one which is not dependent on any, that it has no reason.
Yeah. עליה אמרו, אם אין חוכמה, אין יראה. So concerning this level of fear, it was said by our sages, if there is no wisdom, there is no fear. So is he talking about יראה here?
No, he's talking about the yirah.
Okay. The חוכמה היא כוח מה. For חוכמה is כוח מה. The level of nullification which is termed ma. So you have a power to do something, right? That's
So maybe actually, he is talking about yira ilah here. He's talking about higher because it's koach ma. It comes from the potential of nothingness.
Mm-hmm. Right. A phrase that expresses the complete and total nullification, which is termed bitul b'metziut. Right. So ma being something that is not explained is like
yeah.
It's a potential.
It's a question.
Yeah. והחוכמה מאין תימצא. And chokhmah comes from ayn, nothingness. For which reason chokhmah is ayn and nullity. וזהו חכם הרואה את הנולד. And our sages in Pirkei Avot said, moreover, who is wise? He who sees that which is born and created. That is to say that the wise person is he who sees how everything is born and created from non-being to being by means of the word of God and the breath of his mouth. As it is written, and by the breath of his mouth, all their hosts were created. I don't think I read it. Actually,
you didn't read the Hebrew,
ולהתהווה מעין ליש בדבר השם ורוח פיו יתברך, כמו שכתוב, וברוח פיו כל צבאם. ואי לזאת, הרי השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, בטלים במציאות ממש בדבר השם ורוח פיו, וכלא ממש חשיבי,
וכלה ממש חשיבי, ואין ואפס ממש. Again, this is actually it's almost Yiddish, but it's mostly Aramaic.
Yeah. וכלה ממש חשיבי, ואין ואפס ממש, or ממש.
Yeah.
כביטול אור וזיו השמש בגוף השמש עצמה. Therefore, the heavens and the earth and all their hosts are truly nullified out of existence within the word of God and the breath of his mouth, and are counted as nothing at all, as not and nothingness indeed, just as the light and brightness of the sun are nullified within the body of the sun itself. See, b'dvar Hashem. That also his body and nefesh and ruach and neshama are utterly nullified in the word of God that created them. ודיבורו יתברך מיוחד במחשבתו, וכולי, וכנזכר לעיל בפרקים כ' וכ"א, באריכות בדרך משל מנפש האדם, שדיבור אחד מדיבורו ומחשבתו כלא ממש, וכולי.
Kela, like nothing. Right? So just as just a thought or a word that you say is really, I mean, it has no comparison to who you are as a person. Similarly, something that is an extension of godliness, like a human being, is in no way comparable to godliness himself.
Right. וזהו שאמר הכתוב, אין יראת השם, היא חוכמה. This is what is meant by the verse, behold, the fear of God, that is wisdom. So first, oh, you put it down. Okay. אך אי אפשר להשיג ליראה וחוכמה זו, אלא בקיום התורה והמצוות, על ידי יראת התאה החיצונית, וזהו שאמרו, אם אין יראה, אין חוכמה. However, one cannot attain this fear and wisdom except by the means of the fulfillment of the Torah and the mitzvot through yira'at ta'ah, which is an external fear. And this is what is meant by the statement that if there is no fear, there is no wisdom.
Yeah.
Right, so first one must come with yira'at ta'ah and a resulting performance of Torah, which allows you to perform the Torah and the mitzvot, and then you can start gaining this higher fear and wisdom.
Yeah.
והנה באהבה יש גם כן שתי מדרגות, אהבה רבה ואהבת עולם, אהבה רבה ואהבת עולם. אהבה רבה היא אהבה בתענוגים. Now in love,
the bracha we say around Shemona Esrei, I forget if it's which bracha it is because I don't daven Ashkenaz, but one of them is Ahava Rabbah, and the other one is Ahavat Olam. Right? We refer to God actually as Ahava Rabbah, as the great love, or the eternal love. Right?
What is it in Sephardi? Where is it?
In Sephardi, we only have Ahavat Olam, I believe.
Ahavat Olam Natata? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, so it's during the brachot of Kriyat Shema. Where is the Siddur? Okay, so Tefilat Arvit, right? So second bracha before thing is Ahavat Olam. In Ashkenazi Sidurim, that's I believe Shachrit, they say Ahava Rabbah. Let me see. And then Arvit, they say where is it? Where are we? This is Hanachat Tefillin. Shema Israel Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Baruch Hu, and then Titbarah.
I don't know.
Where is? Yeah, it's Ahavat Olam. I think Nusach Ari is always Ahavat Olam, but I think Nusach Ashkenaz, they switch. Okay, this is going to bother me, so I am going to go to Sefaria and
yeah, I'm trying to figure out too.
And find a Siddur according to the wrong. That was a joke. Obviously, I am joking. Yeah, so here it is. So you see, the second bracha for is
okay.
Avtan, right? Whereas Nusach Ari, we always say Avat Olam.
Mhm.
Got it?
Got it. Interesting.
Yeah.
So okay, so let's see what's the implication here.
Mm.
So there's two levels, Ahava Rabba and Ahavat Olam.
Mhm.
Ahava Rabba is the love of delight and ecstasy. Ahava b'tanugim.
Mm.
So a love of God which delights in Him. There is no other desire or goal present, such as the desire to cleave to Him or to expire in one's yearning for Him. The love itself is comprised purely of delight in Him and cleaving to Him.
Mhm.
Vehi shalhevet. So this is Ahava Rabba. He shalhevet aola mehalea. And it is a fiery flame that rises of itself. Man does not create or kindle this love within himself. Rather, it comes forth spontaneously. הוא בא מלמעלה בבחינת מתנה למי שהוא שלם ביראה, כנודע על מאמר רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, דרכו של איש לחזר אחר אישה, שאהבה נקראת איש וזכר, כמו שכתוב, זכר חסדו. And it comes from above by way of a gift to he who is perfect in fear, as is known from the saying of our rabbis of blessed memory. It is the way of the man to search for the woman. And in spiritual terms, love is called man or male, as it is written, he has remembered his loving kindness.
Mm.
Male, zachar could be more, remembered or male.
Right.
In the ground. Thus, love is alluded to a male, meaning that remembering is like love.
Yeah. I mean, a form of love. Yeah. So there's a feminine and a masculine form of love.
Does he talk? Is he going to talk about the feminine form of love, or do you know that?
Oh, and he's actually saying, right. Oh, sorry.
Ishaira.
So yeah, ahava is masculine and yira is feminine. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Isha. That's Isha. Okay,
Yeah.
Isha Irat Hashem. While a woman symbolizes fear of God, as is known, Isha Irat Shem Kanoda.
Mm.
Let me read this. The connection between a female and the fear of God is alluded to by the verse that says a God-fearing woman. This then is the spiritual meaning of the statement of the sages. The way of a man is to search for a woman. The level of love, man is revealed from above to search for, where the level of fear, woman is already present and complete. Right? Okay. Right, because the love, the man's love comes after fear, and the fear is already in, because the woman symbolizes it. It's already in her, so
Yeah.
it's like she has a leg up.
Yeah. Yep.
Ubli, did you want to explain something, or?
No, I mean I'm trying to understand it myself. Like, yeah.
Yeah. ובלי קדימת עירה, אי אפשר להגיע לאהבה רבה זו, כי אהבה זו היא מבחינת אצילות, דלת תמן קיצוץ ופירוד חס ושלום. Without the prerequisite of fear, it is impossible to attain the level of Ahava Rabbah, for this love originates from the realm of Atzilut, where there is no sundering or separateness, God forbid. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to understand this. This is a bit beyond me.
Yeah, I feel like there is something about, if they say that the woman symbolizes fear, then that is the prerequisite for love.
Well, so we have the right and the left side, right?
Mhm.
So the right side is chesed and masculinity, and the left side is yirah and din and femininity,
Mhm.
right? So there is that aspect of it. Um, it's just I'm not exactly sure where he's going with this and how he's connecting it. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get there.
We will.
Maybe.
Let's do it. Achavat olam. So this is the second level of love, or the other level of love. היא הבאה מהתבונה ודעת בגדולת השם אין סוף ברוך הוא, הממלא כל עלמין וסובב כל עלמין. אהבת עולם, however, the second and lower level of love, is that which comes from the understanding and knowledge of the greatness of God, the blessed Ein Sof, who fills all worlds and encompasses all worlds. וכולה כמה כלא ממש חשי. כלה ממש חשי.
Kela.
כלה.
La means no.
כלה ממש חשי. וכביטול דיבור אחד בנפש המסכלת, בעודו...
Maskelet, yeah.
I got the last one, I got it. בעודו במחשבתה או בחמדת הלב כנזכר לעיל. And before whom everything is accounted as nothing at all, like the nullity of one's utterance within the intelligent soul, while it is still in the thought or in the desire of the heart, as has been explained earlier. אשר על ידי התבוננות זו ממילא תתפשט מידת האהבה שבנפש מלבושיה. Is a result of such contemplation, the attribute of love, which is in the soul, will, as a matter of course, divest itself of its garment, which it had previously worn. So this means to say that the individual will cease loving those things he had previously loved, this love having previously led him to vest himself in those things, and all his love will be directed to God alone. Interesting. So you would love... I feel like maybe this is something similar to what Pajot was talking about. What Pajot talks about in terms of when you, like, beauty being something that is a proxy for the good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that's like you can direct yourself to it. But then you have to divest it. But then you have to recognize that the beauty is not the higher good, but it's a good thing to start with. I feel like he's said something like that. It actually sounds very similar to what he said.
Yeah. Yeah, Corey got me this book by an Eastern Orthodox priest that talks about beauty, like the three transcendentals, and beauty, truth, and good. And it's about it's supposed to be about healing trauma. And one thing I like, just reading the preface, I was like, I don't like this idea of juggling the three transcendentals, because ultimately you have to be pointed towards the ineffable. The question becomes, how do you become oriented towards that? And
because it's ineffable. So what are you...
Right.
Yeah.
And so there's I think I've seen different explanations which try to give you different roads. I don't think any one particular way is actually going to work for everyone. And so it's like trying to make it's trying to give you directions, whereas I think you can have somewhat of a map, but you can't really have directions.
Right.
Do you understand what I mean?
I think so. I mean, you can have some kind of here's a pattern of behavior. Here's something that you can do. It's not specific. It's just a movement, and through that movement, you might be able to be transformed in some way.
Yeah.
I feel like this might be similar to that. I was thinking about this, like in terms of trying to buy like so talking about beauty, right? And love. So I was thinking about, we have a challah cover, and we have a little nicer candle holder, and so it's kind of like something to start with, but then you can fill that up with the meaning of what that means and how it brings beauty to your life, and then the thing in itself, you can separate the thing in itself from the concept that you already understand, so it's a little bit more ineffable, and then you're just invested in the concept, and the thing in itself is just, you're less invested in it, you're more invested in the concept, because that's something that's more important, because you recognize it, so you know what I mean. Does that make sense?
I somewhat. I keep on. So I've been thinking about that discussion that Jordan Peterson had with that Dr. Sarah Hill.
Okay.
And one of the things he pointed out was when, I believe it's the blastocytes still. So when you have a baby, right? The first cell divides into 2, and then 4, and then 8, and then 32, right? 16 and 32. And up to some point, when all the cells are haven't started differentiating yet, if you take one of the cells out, or you take half of the cells out, right? It just continues to, it just like, you don't get, when it's undifferentiated, you don't get like half a body, like 2 halves of a body, right? You get 2 full bodies. Why? Because even though all of the cells are perfectly similar to each other, right? Identical, really, to each other.
Right. It's like a tree with seeds. How can there be 10 trees in one tree?
Right. Yeah, and it's like there is some sort of shape that is bigger and beyond what is encoded into each of those cells, right? And it's a pattern that exists outside of them, and recognizing that, this is a lot of confused, like, we've been jumping from idea to idea, and it seems to me like these ideas all are related, but I would have a hard time explaining it, and I'm not sure if any of the people watching understand anything we're saying. And I'm not sure I understand very well what we're saying, but I think we're both hitting at the same idea.
I think so.
There's something that is ineffable and beyond the material and the physical, and
and so I'll throw in, I also don't understand this. I don't know. I feel like there's a connection here, but I'm not sure. It's ineffable. It's beyond me. And so here's another example of Vervaekian talking to Michael Levine with the Xenopods, I think. And they, or just Michael Levine talking about the Xenopods with Karen Wong. And he was talking also about how there are things that are not encoded, that we can't see. Like, there is no way that they are encoded in those Xenopods, and yet they do certain things. I'm trying to think of maybe it's how like a cell can become both a liver and an eye, but it's not like there is some. It's
That's
not
so
like,
funny. I was thinking about those exact same things. I forgot what they were called. Like he's making from he's making tiny robots
yeah,
out of like cells from like tadpoles, right?
yeah, like skin cells, and they
Yeah.
just do something else, and it's
Yeah.
not encoded. We can't see what he's talking about. I think even he says that it's in that, like he could use the word magic, because we don't understand it, because we can't see where is all this information encoded with them, like in them. How
Yeah.
can they know? How can they perform these certain functions? And that's the ineffable. Like, where is it coming from?
Yeah. So, did you watch the discussion that Sam Tiedemann had with Riveki?
I haven't.
It was very good,
Mm-hmm.
as all of Sam's discussions with Riveki are. But one thing that they talked about was, in order to make a large language model, you have to use so much energy that you could power a city with it for several days, right? But then it only reaches the level of understanding of a 5-year-old kid, and it really stuck with me. Sam was like, which you can power with a box of mac and cheese, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a child, right?
Right.
You know,
Okay.
like
No.
how you, like, we're putting all of these resources, all of these, the smartest human beings, all of these computers and machinery, trying to replicate that which a little child does, and we have no idea, like, there's no preservation of resources here,
Right. Right.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How can mac and cheese turn into
Mac
the
and cheese.
knowledge of a 5-year-old? Even.
Yeah, into the knowledge of a 5-year-old. Yeah. How do you turn a box of mac and cheese into the knowledge of a 5-year-old? That's a good idea. That's a good question. And we haven't been able to figure that out.
Yep.
But mac and cheese is pretty good. I really like mac and cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Back to Tanya.
That's it.
Yeah.
דיינו, שלא תתלבש בשום דבר, הנאה ותענוג גשמי או רוחני, לאהבה אותו, ולא לחפוץ כלל שום דבר בעולם, בלתי השם לבדו. מקור החיים של כל התענוגים. i.e., it will not clothe itself in anything of pleasure or enjoyment, whether physical or spiritual, to love it and will not desire anything whatsoever in the world other than God alone, the source of the vitality of all enjoyments. Right. So after you've invested yourself in all those things, then that's how you're, like, you get the gist. You fall in love with the gist, which is God. שכולם בטילים במציאות וכלה
כלה ממש קמי
חשיב, ואין ערוך ודמיון כלל ביניהם חס ושלום. כמו שאין ערוך לאין ואפס המוחלט לגבי חיים נצחיים. For they are all nullified in reality and accounted as nothing at all compared with him, there being no manner of comparison or similitude between them, God forbid. Just as there is no comparison between that which is absolutely not and nothing and everlasting life. וכמו שכתוב, מי לי בשמיים ועמך לא חפצתי בארץ. As it is written, whom have I in heaven to love other than God? The verse goes on to say, and there is nothing upon earth that I desire with you. Where is this from?
This is from Psalms 72.
כלה שערי ולבבי, צור לבבי וכולי, כמו שהתבאר לקמן. The next verse continues, my flesh and my heart yearn for you, rock of my heart, as will be explained later. וגם מי שאין מידת האהבה שבנפשו מלובשת כלל בשום תענוג גשמי או רוחני, יכול להלהיב נפשו כרשפי אש ולשלהבת עזה ולהב העולה השמיימה, על ידי התבוננות הנזכרת לעין, כמו שהתבאר לקמן. Also, he whose soul's attribute of love is not vested at all in any physical or spiritual enjoyment, is able to kindle his soul as with burning coals in an intense fire in a flame that soars heavenward by contemplating the above mentioned matters, as shall be explained later on. So he's saying that you don't have to be someone that invests himself in all of these material things that are a part of God but are more hidden. You can just...
It's possible for some souls. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. To connect directly to the higher love.
Yeah.
והנה, בחינת אהבה זו, פעמים שקודמת ליראה, כפי בחינת הדעת המולידה, כנודע שהדעת כולל חסדים וגבורות שהם אהבה ויראה, ופעמים שהחסדים קודמים לירד ולהתגלות. This latter category of love sometimes precedes fear, according to the quality of the da'at which fathers it, as is known. For da'at incorporates both chassidim and gvurot, which are love and fear. Chesed is love and gvur is fear. Da'at reveals both of these emotions, thus binding one's da'at intensely to the greatness of God gives rise to both feelings, fear and love. And sometimes the chassidim descend and manifest themselves first. So this depends on the da'at, the contemplation of the individual soul.
Yeah. Well, the connection of an individual soul. Yeah. So da'at is the connection of the intellectual with the emotional.
Right. But would it be wrong to say the contemplation? Because you connect through contemplation, no?
Contemplation would be more bina. Sorry.
Right, okay. ולכן, אפשר לרשע, ובעל עבירות שיעשה תשובה מהאהבה הנולדה בליבו, בזכרו, את השם אלוהיו. Therefore, it is possible for a wicked and sinful person to repent by virtue of the love that is born in his heart at the time he remembers the Lord his God. Interesting. So, although up to the point of his repentance he was wicked and lacked the fear of God, still there may be born in him a love for God that will lead him to repent. So, right, so a wicked person can repent because because suddenly he fears the results of his transgressions, or he can repent because he suddenly remembers his love for God.
Yeah. It's possible. It happens.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. I haven't thought about that in terms of connecting that to the ahava and fear. ומכל מקום, היראה גם כן כלולה בה ממילא, רק שהיא בבחינת קטנות וההלם, דהיינו יראת חטא, למרוד בו חס ושלום, והאהבה היא בהתגלות ליבו ומוחו. At any rate, fear too is included therein, in the love, as a matter of course, except that it is there in a state of minuteness and concealment, namely as the fear of sin, of rebelling against it. God forbid. While the love is in a revealed state in his heart and mind. Okay. So I think this is kind of connect back to what we were confused about in terms of what comes first, the feminine and the male, the לזכור and the יראה. אך זהו דרך מקרה והוראת שעה, בהשגחה פרטית מאת שם, לצורך שעה, כמעשה דרבי אלעזר בן דורדיה. However, such a case, when a wicked person suddenly attains the love of God and becomes penitent, where love precedes fear, is an extraordinary occurrence and an emergency prescription through God's particular providence, as the occasion requires, as happened with Rabbi Elazar ben Dordaya, who had been sinful and suddenly became a penitent, repenting out of love for God.
Yeah, so the story of Rabbi Elazar ben Dordaya, if it's the correct story, I remember, is he was somebody who was very sinful, and he spent all of his life running after every physical pleasure possible, to the point where he heard of a woman who was known as being the most profligate prostitute in the world. And so he deliberately went to find her.
Mm-hmm.
And when he found her, he said, he told her he had come specifically to find the woman who had been with the most men in the world. And she was so disgusted with him that she refused him. And her disgust engendered a disgust within him for how he had lived his life. And he became so penitent that he died. And a voice came out of heaven and called him Rabbi Elazar ben Dordaya. He was ordained a rabbi posthumously,
Mm-hmm.
because of the level of teshuvah, of repentance he had at the very last moment of his life.
Yeah.
That redeemed all of the sin, the life of sin that he had lived up to that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you know what? I'm trying to think. The last two comments, Fraud and William.
Yeah.
What they refer to, and then
yeah. So Fraud was talking about, when we were talking about the mac and cheese, right?
Mm-hmm.
How hard it is to recreate a human being, and so Fraud said, and then we treat human beings, actual humans, like dirt,
Right.
despite the fact we spent so much resources on things like ChatGPT. And William asked, is pacifism the will of God? I'm not sure where he got that question from, but the answer is no, it's not. War is the will of God, but war that is for the sake of heaven and done in the manner prescribed by heaven.
What do you mean war is the will of God?
We're here to fight. We're here to have. I mean, this is actually the real lesson of Tanya, right? Is he talks about, so
Right, conquer the land, conquer the city.
Right, conquering, right? It's the fight that matters, right? Because ultimately, whether or not you are successful, right? It's so the Alter Rebbe wrote Tanya because people were coming to him and saying, "Hey, Rabbi, like, I've been trying all this time to become a tzaddik, to become a person who doesn't ever sin."
Right.
And part of a large reason why he wrote Tanya was for people to realize, no, you're in here for you live in order to participate in the fight. The battle is Milchamet Havaya Ba'amalek, door, right? Is the war of the Lord upon Amalek in every generation, right?
Right. Okay. You're talking. Sorry. Go ahead.
We're here for the struggle.
Yes. Okay. So, but you're talking very spiritually, because obviously yesterday you came up on Pirkei Avot, and you came up to, I'll put it provocatively, totally a pacifist.
So the war has to
How
be.
do you put these two things together?
Okay, so the war has to be. So you talk about the word jihad, right? So I'm a total jihadi in the way that all the people who are apologists for jihadis talk about, jihad is an inner struggle, right?
Right.
Well, yes, if jihad is actually an inner struggle to be a better person, right? If jihad is actually an inner struggle to fight against sin and to fight for goodness and for life and for defending the weak, and right, then yes, the question is what are you fighting for? Why are you fighting for? And so if you're fighting for a piece of land, right? I get to live in Jerusalem. You don't get it. You don't get it. If you're fighting for if you want to destroy, right? So famous story of David and Saul. Mm-hmm. So David is hiding in a cave, and Saul and all of his men come near the cave, and Saul says to his men, "Wait here, I need to go to use the bathroom." And he goes into the cave, and he's using the bathroom, and David walks up and cuts off a piece of Saul's clothing, right? And Saul walks out of the bathroom, and then David comes out and shows him the piece of cloth.
Yeah.
He says, I would never, even though the Lord delivered you into my hands, I would never hurt you because of Hamashal Hakadmoni. Now, recognize that this is from the Bible, talking about Saul and David,
mm-hmm.
and quotes David as saying Hamashal Hakadmoni. What does Mashal Kadmoni mean?
I don't know.
It means the proverb of the ancients.
Right.
So this is at least 4,000 years old, right? Mm-hmm. It's like it was an ancient saying when the chronicles of David and Saul were being written, right? And what's Mashal Hakadmoni? It is Mirasha Tetzeh Resha. From an evildoer comes evil, right? It says, because of that, even though the Lord delivered you into my hands, and Saul is trying to kill him, right? So he could have taken vengeance on Saul. He could have killed Saul. But he's like, no, good things come from good people and bad things come from bad people. Right?
Right, meaning that harming people is inherently bad.
Yes, and if harm needs to come, then let it come from somebody else. Now, when it comes down to it, David did in fact have to kill people. And when it comes down to it, that's why David couldn't build the temple himself, right?
Right, yeah.
So
Yeah, there's always consequences. Yeah, I mean, we went through this in a lot of. I mean, with Jacob, I could see it like in the oldest parashot, like even though like taking the taking getting the blessings was something that he was supposed to do. There was something that was supposed to do. There were consequences. Even though, yeah, even though like so all these things, even though they're justified, if they are done in those kind of means, there are still consequences. Yeah, that's a very interesting.
Yeah, and so ultimately, yes, we have to be involved in the fight. And Ein Tzaddik Ba'aretz V'lo Chata. There's no such thing as a saintly person on in the earth, and it specifically says in the earth, who has not sinned, who has not missed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, yeah, when we talk about the jihad, right? We have to be jihadis. We have to be jihadis in the right way, not like the jihadis. It has to be a struggle towards good and life and building and all that.
Yeah, yeah. I go back to this to the principle of ikar v'tafel.
Mm.
It's yeah. There is the I don't know what the good translation for it. There is the main way to do something, and
Ikar
there is
v'tafel,
secondary.
yeah,
There's a secondary. There is a yeah. There's
yeah,
a secondary thing to do things, and then there is
that's interesting because this morning I was thinking about like war, right? So if if you're trying you're engaged in a war and you have collateral damage, right? You have civilians who die, right? The question is it collateral or is that what you intended and were trying to do,
mm-hmm.
right? And yeah, ikar v'tafel, right? And when is it ikar and when is it tafel? When is it what you intend to do? Whereas it's a secondary effect, right?
Yeah. So yeah, and like you said, even if it's secondary,
Yeah.
there's gonna be consequences, and it's going to affect your own personality, which is obviously why Jacob, at the end of the day, berated Levi
Uh,
and Shimon.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. We've gone far afield, my friend.
Have we? I mean, in the video, I think this all. If people rewind this all makes sense.
You think so?
I think so.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay.
אוקיי. יאללה. אבל סדר העבודה הקבועה הוא תלויה בבחירת האדם. צריך להקדים תחילה קיום התורה והמצוות על ידי יראת התאה בבחינת קטנות על כל פנים, בסורה ועשה טוב. However, the regular order of divine service, which is determined by and depends on a man's choice, is to begin with the fulfillment of Torah and mitzvot through ir'at ta'ah, in its state of minuteness, at least, departing from evil and doing good.
That's the normal way to do it.
להאיר נפשו האלוהית באור התורה ומצוותיה. So you do this as in order to illuminate your divine soul with the light of Torah and its commandments. ואחר כך יאיר עליה אור האהבה, whereupon the light of love will also shine upon it, right? So clean your room and then make it beautiful. וכי ואהבת בגימטריה בית פעמים אור, כידוע לידי חן. So for the word ve'avta, and you shall love the Lord your God, has a numerical value twice that of all, light, as is known to the students of Kabbalah.
Good thing we're not students of Kabbalah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Rabbi Yitzchak would get very mad at us if we were students of Kabbalah. Okay. Vehine, kol madregat ahava Shtei madragot elu. So any grade of love, each of the grades of love from these two, ahava rabba va'avat olam, whether it is great love or eternal love, נחלקת לכמה בחינות ומדרגות לאין קץ, כל חד לפום שיעורה דילי. Right? Each of these has its grades and shades and gradations, limitless, right? According to the spiritual capacities. כמו שכתוב בזוהר קדוש על הפסוק, נודע בשערים בעלה, like it says in the Holy Zohar regarding that verse in Eshet Chayil that we sing every Friday night. Right, Ben? You sing every Friday night?
I actually don't sing Eshet Chayil.
You should sing Eshet Chayil.
I know, I should.
You should, yes. Noda b'sharim bala. So it's the simple translation is her husband is known in the gates, but I believe the taich there in the Zohar is Noda b'shiurim, is known with measures. Da kucha brichu de'ihu it yada ve'it dabek l'chol chad lefum mad mish'ar belibei v'chulu. This is the Holy One, blessed be He, right? Who's known as the husband of Knesset Israel, who makes himself known and attaches himself to each according to the extent which one measures in his heart, in one's heart. ולכן נקראת דחילור רחמו הנסתרות להשם אלוקינו. Therefore, love and fear are called those hidden things which belong to God. Deuteronomy 29:28. The Torah u'mitzvot hen haniglot lanu v'nenu la'asot chulu. And the Torah and mitzvot are those things which are revealed, right? So that verse in Deuteronomy says that the hidden things belong to the Lord our God, and the revealed things belong to us. So the hidden things are those things which are in the heart, and the revealed things are what we actually can see in our actions. Ki Torah achat, yes, umishpat achad lechulanu, bekiyum kol haTorah umitzvot bebechinat maaseh. Because all of us have to keep halacha, right? Ma she'ein ken b'tchilur chimu shehen lefi hadat et Hashem shebamoach balev, which is not the same as love and fear of God, which depends on each person individually. Kanizkar la'ayel, like explained above. Ach achat hi ahava haklula mikol bechinot u'madragot ahava rabba va'avat olam. Yet there's one singular and unique love which incorporates something of all the distinctions and gradations of both ahava rabba and ahavat olam. Vehi shava l'chol nefesh me'Israel. It is something that is the same for every soul in Israel. V'yerusha lanu me'avotenu, that we have inherited from our fathers. V'hainu, and that is ma shekatuv hazohar al hapasuk, nafshi iviticha balayla. That is what the Zohar says on the verse from Isaiah, my soul, I desire you at night. The Zohar notes that the verse is grammatically anomalous. It should either say, my soul desires you, or alternatively, I desire you, right? Oh, ani iviticha or nafshi yiviticha. Yeah, it's with an aleph, but it's nafshi, right? Therefore, the Zohar explains, my soul refers to God, the soul of all beings. In effect, the Jew says to God, you are my soul, therefore I desire you. And as the Zohar goes on to say, the Yarchem lekucha brichu rechimuta de nafsha verucha kama de itdabku ilain begufa rachim lon vechulu. One should love God with a love of the soul and spirit as they are attached to the body, and the body loves them. Vezehu shekatuv nafshi iviticha. Klomar, mipnei she'ata Hashem nafshi v'chayai ha'amitim l'chach iviticha. Perush, she'ani mit'aveh v'ta'ev l'cha ka'adam ha'mit'aveh l'chayei nafsho כשהוא חלש ומעונה מתאווה ותאב שתשוב נפשו אליו. This is the interpretation of the verse. My soul, I desire you, which means since you, God, are my soul, a true soul and life, therefore do I desire you. That is to say, I long and yearn for you like a man who craves the life of his soul, and when he is weak and exhausted, he longs and yearns for his soul to revive in him, return to him. V'chen keshahu holech lishon, and similarly, when you go to the bed, mit'aveh v'chafetz shetashuv nafsho alav, he wants that his soul should return. Kesheyor mishnato, when he wakes up, kach ani mit'aveh v'ta'ev la'or ein sof baruch hu. In a similar way, I desire the light of the Blessed One, the holy, blessed, the infinite Blessed One, the light of the infinite Blessed One. Chayeh ha'chayim ha'amitim, who is the source of all life. Lamshicho bekirbi al yedei esek haTorah b'hakitzi mishnati b'layla. To bring him to me through being involved in the Torah when I get up from my sleep. The oraita v'kutsha brichu kulachad, that the Torah and the Blessed Holy One are all one. Kamosh katuv hazohar sham, like the Zohar says there, the boy Barnash merhamuta the kutsha brichu lemekam b'chol leila leishtadla bepulchanei ad tzafra. Out of love for the Holy One, blessed be He, a man should rise each night and exert himself in his service until morning. That's Tikkun Chatzot, right. Which I am not someone who does that, but what can I say? Some people do. Va'ahava rabba u'gedola mizu, a greater and more intense love than this. Vehi mesuteret gam ken b'chol nefesh me'Yisrael b'Yerusha ma'avotenu, which we inherited from our fathers. He ma shekatuv b'Raya Mehemna, what is written in the Zohar in the section of Raya Mehemna. Kivra de'ishtadel batar avoy ve'imei derachim lon yater migarmei v'nafshei v'ruchei. Right, like a person will strive for his mother and father, that he loves them more than himself. Ki halo av echad lekulanu, because we all have one father. Va'af ki mi hu ze ve'eze hu asher arav libo lageshet lahasig afilu chelek echad mini elef mimadragat ahavat raya mehemna. And although one may ask, who's the person who approaches even one little bit of this love of the faithful shepherd that is Moses, mikol makom hare efetz katsehu v'shemetz minehu mirav tuvo v'oro meir lechlalut Israel b'chol dor v'dor. So a little bit of Moses is brightens, illuminates the entirety of Israel in each generation. Kamosh Katuv Betikunim,
Right.
like is said in the Tikunei Zohar, the itpashtuta b'chol dara v'dara la'anhara lon v'chulu.
We spoke about this.
Yeah, there's we actually we did Va'atatzava, right? That mimer of the Rebbe, Va'atatzava.
It talks about Moses and the oil.
Yeah, and yeah, the
is it his last one? No.
The echoes of that is the last mimer that the Rebbe left. Yeah. Rak shahar azu hi bebechinat hester va'helem gadol benafshot kol beit Israel. This is something that is hidden in the souls of each Jew. Ulahotzi ahava zu hamesuteret mehahelem va'hester el hagalui, and to bring it forth from its hiddenness to revelation. Lihyot behitgalut libo u'mocho lo niflet velo rechokahi. To bring it out is not something that is beyond our reach. Ela karov hadavar me'od beficha ulvavacha la'asota. It is in your mouth and in your heart to do it. The hainu lihyot ragil al leshono v'kolo le'orer kavanato libo u'mocho. That is to say, it should be habitual with his tongue and voice to arouse the intention of his heart and mind. Lahamik machshavto b'chayei hachayim ein sof baruch hu, to immerse, right, his thoughts in the life of life, the blessed one, but ein sof, eternal. Ki hu avinu mamash, because he is our father. Amiti ha'amiti u'makor chayenu, truly, and the source of our lives. Ula orer alav ha'ava ka'avat haben el ha'av, to awaken the love such as is the love of a son for his father. Yargil atzmo ken tamid hare hahergel na'aseh teva, and if he accustoms himself to do so, it will become a second nature to him. Va'af im nidmet lo lechora shahu koach dimyoni, and even if it might appear that he's just making himself appear as such, lo yachush, he should not be worried about this. Ma'achar shahu emet amito mitzad atzmo bebechinat ahavat mesuteret, because truly, spiritually, this is actually true, right? Only it is in a state of hiddenness. Rak shetoelet yetziata el hagilui kedei lahavi'ah lidei maseh, but the benefit derived from the spiritual service through which he effects its emergence into the open is that he should translate it into action. And when his love is in a state of concealment, it cannot affect his actions. Shehu esek haTorah va'mitzvot shelomed u'mekayem al yedei zeh kedei la'asot nachat ruach lefanav yitbarech keven ha'oved et aviv. Right? So it may seem like he's fooling himself because he's not actually at the level of having a truly revealed love of God, but it is actually something that is within him, and he can bring it to be an actuality.
Right. So it could also come from both ways.
Yeah.
Through the action and through the contemplation.
Well, so, okay. What he's saying is everybody has this desire to do what God wants, but it may appear to us that it isn't real, but that's only because it is hidden deep within us.
Right.
And when we pretend, right, we bring that which is actual, right, but hidden into revelation. And so it is in fact doing something real, despite the fact that we may feel like we're fakers.
Right. It's like the hero of the story saying something like, "I didn't know I could do that."
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. ועל זה אמרו, מחשבה טובה הקדוש ברוך הוא מצרפה למעשה, right? So God will join a person's good intents with what he does. Lihyot gadfin leparcha kanizkar la'il, that they should be wings for them to soar upwards, as we discussed above. V'hanachat ruach hu, the gratification he provides God is akin kamashal simchat hamelech mibino shaba alav betzeto mibeit ha'asurim kanazkar al, like we discussed before. Welcome, Rabbi, by the way. The allegory of a king who delights in his son being released from captivity. O lihiyot lo dira betachtonim kanazkar al, or when we talked about there being a dwelling place for God in the lower realms, or among mortals is how they translated it here. Vehine gam lebichinat nafshi iviticha, and similarly, with regards to my soul, I desire you. Hanis Carlisle, which we just talked about. Karov hadavar ma'od lahotzi'ata lehotzi'ah mehahelem el hagilui. It is something that is close to being revealed, that can be revealed from its hiddenness. Al yedei hahergel tamid befinu befiv velibo shav'in, right? When he accustoms himself to do so. Ach im eino yechol lahotzi'ah el hagilui velibo. However, if he can't make it revealed in his heart, af al pichen, even so, yechol la'asok b'torah mitzvot lishman, right? He can be involved in Torah and mitzvot for their own sakes. Al yedei tziur inyan ahava zu b'machshava shabamocho, right? Through imagining these things in the thoughts in his mind. Umachshava tova hakadosh baruch hu mitzarfa, right? And a good intention, God will unite with the actual actions. Vehine shnei bechinot ahavot elu. So these two categories of love, that of my soul, the love a Jew feels for God upon realizing that he is true, his true life, and that which he is like a son, loving God as one's true father. Af shehen Yerusha lanu me'avotenu, even though these are things we have inherited. Gomo kem teva benafshotenu, and they are natural to our souls. V'chen hayirah ha'kelulah bahen, and similarly, the awe we have that are included with them. Shehi lir'o milipared chas v'shalom mimakor chayenu ba'avinu ha'amiti baruch hu, right? To be separated, God forbid, from that which is truly the source of our life and our Father. Af al pi chen einan nikraot b'shem dechilur chimu tiv'im. They are not called natural fear and love. Ela kishehen b'mocho machshavto levad v'talumot libo, except when they are in his thoughts and in the hidden parts of his heart.
Right. So, meaning only when he has incorporated it both in terms of his intention and or contemplation and his actions. It becomes TV, becomes natural.
Right.
Even though it's innate. Or it's a
Yerusha. It
Yeah.
becomes natural when it's something that is. I think he's. Hold on. Let me finish this thing, because I think what he's saying is that when you actually do act upon them, then it's considered revealed. בתלמוד ליבו, ואז מקומן בעשר ספינות דיצירה, ולשם הם מעלות עמהן התורה והמצוות הבאות מחמתן בסיבתן. Okay, so what he's saying is that when they are in his mind and his thoughts, they are united with the Eser Sfirot of Atzilut, of the worlds of emanation, and therefore they can join his actions with the worlds of emanation. Yeah, so what he's saying is when it is the fact that these are things which are in your thoughts and your feelings, which allows you to connect with the highest levels of the Sfirot, which is in the worlds of emanation.
Right, you activate the Yerusha. You activate the
Yes.
what's Yerusha? Inheritance.
Yerusha, inheritance, yeah. you are connecting ma'aseh, you're creating connecting action with the worlds of emanation.
Yeah.
אבל כשהן בהתגלות ליבו נקראים ראותא דליבה בזוהר. But when they are manifest state in his heart, as opposed to as a result of his contemplation, they are called in the Zohar Re'uta Liba, the heart's desire, a more exalted than natural love. Umakoman be'eser sfirot de biria, which is lower than Atzilut. V'lasham hen ma'alot imahen haTorah v'hamitzvot habaot mechmatan, and they bring where they raise up with them the Torah and mitzvot which they have been the cause, which have been performed with the ardor of this love. The reason this is indeed so, notwithstanding the fact that they are naturally found within the soul of every Jew, is now given.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say what I don't understand yet. We might explain it, is that he's saying this is higher, even though it's in the world of Bria. It's connecting with.
I mean, is he saying? I mean, it would seem that it would be higher because it is in Revelation, but he's actually saying that it's kind of lower.
Well,
right?
Wait, isn't he saying? Can you scroll up a little bit?
He's saying when it's tiv'it, when it's something that is natural, right? That is a Yerusha. It's from the Eser Sfirot of Yetzirah. When it is something that is revealed, it's from Eser Sfirot the Bria.
Okay, I got confused. I thought he said Atzilut here.
Oh, I did too. I was mistranslating it. You're right. Aha, that makes sense. Okay.
So remind me just to make sure, because Atzilut,
Atzilut
Bria,
is emanation.
Yetzirah.
Bria is creation. Yetzirah is formation.
Yep.
And Asiyah is action. Yeah, I was confusing. Okay,
But just in terms of the levels, he's talking here about how it connects to Yetzirah, which is
higher, which is lower than Bria.
Bria. Okay, yeah. So that now this makes sense.
Yeah, now this makes sense.
Now I understand this completely.
Okay, glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. מפני שיציאתן מההלם וההסתר הלב אל בחינת הגילוי היא על ידי הדעת ותקיעת המחשבה בחוזק והתבוננות עצומה מעומקא דליבה yatir v'tadir be'ein sof baruch hu ech hu chayenu mamash va'avinu hamiti baruch hu. Right? Because it in when it is that revealed so that it comes up all the way to Bria, right? Like we earlier said, the intellectual faculties have their primary residence in the world of Bria, and the emotional faculties have their primary residence in the worlds of Yetzira. Do you remember that? It was a few chapters ago.
It makes I it sounds familiar, but I understand that in terms of, yeah, when you get it. So basically, what he's saying is, when it's revealed, you mean when it's
When
through
it's
the
revealed
intellectual.
in your intellect, it
It's
rises
higher.
all the way up to Bria. Yeah.
Yes, and it's when it's an emotional thing, which somehow is connected to the inheritance that you,
Mm, yeah.
then it is a, is a lesser.
It's in the worlds of formation.
It's
Yeah.
in
It has its primary source in the worlds of formation.
yeah. Okay.
ומודעת זאת מה שכתוב בתיקונים כי בעולם הבריאה מקננה תמן אימא ואילאה, right? And this is what we talked about earlier, right? That the nests of the supernal mother, right? So is in Bria, right? So Bina is in Bria. Shehi hitbonenut be'or ein sof bar chaye ha'chayim baruch hu u'kamamar Eliyahu bina liba uvah halev mebin. Like Elijah
Right.
says in the Tikkunim, the heart, bina is the heart, and with it the heart understands. V'lo od ela sheshtei bechinot ahavot elu hanizkarot la'ayil hen klulot min bechinat ahava rabba ugedola ומעולה מדחילור חימוס שכליים אשר האהבה נקראת לעיל בשם אהבת עולם. These two categories of love that have been referred to above incorporate a quality of love which is greater and more sublime than intelligent fear and love, which is, so ahavat olam, ahavat rabbah is an intellectual one, whereas ahavat olam is a emotional one.
Yeah, yeah. This chapter definitely requires notes because he uses so many terms. I think I understand it, but the terms are I need to connect them together.
Yeah. Yeah. רק שאף על פי כן צריך לטרוח בשכלו להשיג להגיע גם לבחינת אהבת עולם הנזכר לעיל, הבאה מהתבונה ודעת בגדולת השם. Yet, a person must strain his intellect to apprehend and attain also the above-mentioned level of ahavat olam, which stems from an understanding and knowledge of the greatness of God, right? Which is, down in Bria, right? It brings it into the emotions. Kedei lahagdil medurat esh ha'ava berishpei esh v'shalhevet azav v'lahav ha'olam ha'shamayma ad shamayim rabim lo yichlu lechabot v'chulu u'naharot lo yishtafuha v'chulu. In order to fan the blaze of the fiery love which with glowing coals and an intense fire and flame that rises heavenward, so that not even many waters, which are enemies of the love, can extinguish it, nor rivers quench it. Right? He has to awaken his emotions so that worldly matters cannot overcome it.
Yeah. So this note, here's what I'm confused about. So the note says, love created purely as a result of contemplation is more passionate and fiery than love which is essentially inherited, even when the inherited love is revealed through contemplation. So I'm confused about it, but actually I think I may have an example of how it works. But I'm confused about it because if we all inherit it, how can we purely just contemplate it? Isn't it inherited? And then I guess what I'm thinking about now is that this is kind of like talking about the Baal Tshuva, where if you're someone that is, it's part of his life to have this kind of love, so you take it as an inheritance, even if you do understand it, then is that lesser than the person that intellectually just got to that point?
Okay, so these are different things, right? So the emotional love that you should and could and would have for God, which is inherited from our fathers, right, is qualitatively different from a love which is awakened through the contemplation of God and godliness. Okay? And there is a way in which that intellectual connection with God is burns more brightly, right, than a merely emotional one. So he's doing the typical Hasidic thing of giving you one way in which each thing is better than the other.
Yeah, but
and each one has its own mila, has its own superior aspect.
Yeah, I don't know why in the note they say even when the inherent love is revealed through contemplation, because that to me that means 1 + 1. You know what I mean?
Okay. So love created purely as a result of contemplation is more passionate and fiery than love which is essentially inherited, even when the inherited love is revealed through contemplation, right? Let's say you contemplate the greatness of God, and it awakens in you that emotional connection to godliness, right? That awakened emotional relationship does not burn as intensely as a true understanding of the of of a of an intellectual connection with the love of God.
Yeah. I think you put it.
I hope so.
You put it well, I think.
Okay, let's hope. כי יש יתרון ומעלה לבחינת אהבה כרשפי אש ושלהבת עזה וכולו, הבאה מהתבונה ודעת בגדולת אין סוף ברוך הוא, על שתי בחינות אהבה הנזכרות לעיל, כאשר אינה כרשפי אש ושלהבת. Right? So this form of intellectual love has an inherent superiority and excellence, which is above that which we talked about, which is these categories of ahava rabbah and ahavat olam. V'ki yitron u'malat hazahav al hakesef chulu kamo sheyitbar lakaman, which can be compared to the difference between gold and silver, right? They're qualitatively different, right? You can have a lot of silver, which is equal to gold, right? But there's an intrinsic difference between gold and silver. V'gam ki zeh kol ha'adam b'tachlito. Besides, this is the whole of man and his raison d'etre, reason for being. Lama'an dat et kavod Hashem ve'ikar tiferet gedulato. Ish kefi asher yuchal set. כמו שכתוב, Beraya Mehemna Parshat Bo, begin the Ishtamodan Le V'chulu V'chananoda. That one may know the glory of God and the majestic splendor of his greatness, each according to the limits of his capacity. So this is actually much like Maimonides says, right? That the whole point of your existence is to know and love God, right? And that was the end of the chapter.
Interesting.
Yeah, these were difficult chapters.
Perek Ma.
Perek Ma. Yeah. That's next week.
Yep. I do feel כי קרוב אליך הדבר מאוד. Like it's close. Like the chapter, the jewels in the chapter are close to me, but yeah.
They're close, but in being close, you know you don't have them. Yeah. I have a very similar feeling.
Yeah, but in a lot of ways, I mean, he brings up very similar concept, like a very similar concept in each chapter, and kind of like, it kind of almost like a habit of like drilling them into you, and thinking about it from like even like one degree to the right, 1 degree to the left, is to really reveal the distinctions and like the things, what they are.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that I really started appreciating about Tanya when I started appreciating cognitive behavioral therapy was how it constantly and repeatedly shows you the value of viewing things from different aspects,
right?
And how things have their respective superior aspects from their particular vantage point.
Right, reframing.
Yeah.
Put it very broadly.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I used to have a great. I think there's an app for that. There is an app, I think, that didn't have that. But I used to have this infographic with all of the. I forgot what they're called, but it's kind of like a CBT card.
With all the cognitive distortions?
Right, yeah, like catastrophizing.
Yeah.
So you can kind of like every time you're thinking you may be even having an issue, and it's it's a challenge in itself to recognize it, and remember that you should look at the card. But you can look at this thing and kind of like, okay, what am I possibly doing right now? Am I catastrophizing, or am I whatever else is in the card? I forget.
So I had an argument with Max, who is so he's a associate clinical social worker. So he already has his master's of social work, and he's already working and trying to finish his hours for his licensure. And we're talking about CBT, and he disagrees with me, but I mean, and we couldn't really come to a point where we could agree. But I have this theory that if you were to actually get rid of any of the cognitive distortions, you would no longer be able to function as a human being. That the cognitive distortions are actually only problematic when they become a habit, but that it's not actually possible. And he didn't agree with this, but I think it is right. That we necessarily need to engage in the cognitive distortions somewhat, but the problem is when we get caught up in them and we use them too much.
I totally agree with you. I think I was thinking about this. I was catastrophizing about a week ago about something.
Mhm.
And I not at the time I didn't realize it, but then after I realized, oh, I probably that's what I did. But then I thought it actually helped me to catastrophize a little bit because it helped me reorient or something. I thought like, you know what, I appreciate the fact that I did that a little bit
Yeah.
because now I know something. Like now I know more. Like now I know more. And
Mhm.
also, this is actually very much related to what Chazi and I spoke to in Pirkei Avot, which is in the Mishnah about like don't al tartze ben adam b'shat kaso and but telling you to when people are engaged in an extreme emotion or extreme practice like taking a vow or like bereaving,
Mhm.
let them go through it so they can kind of transform within themselves. And we were talking about how in Judaism those practices are there. They're almost there so that you can take part in those cognitive distortions, but in a controlled manner,
Yeah.
so that you can use them for transformation.
Yeah. 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 That's the thing. I don't think like it started with when somebody pointed out that one of the cognitive distortions is should, right? Saying you should do this, you should do that. And they're like, well, if you never say should, then like you're going to end up being nihilistic at best or a psychopath at worst,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like, yeah, you do need shoulds, but when it's the cognitive distortions become a problem when they become a problem, because we fall into them because they are useful, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like catastrophe. I mean, you can try to steel man catastrophizing in some way of like, okay, when you catastrophize about something, one, you're telling yourself that it's important to you,
Yeah.
and you recognize that by your reaction, and then you can calibrate or contemplate whether it was appropriate or what exactly do you care about.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
but obviously, yeah, in a, like you said, like in a controlled manner, and not making those into a habit or let them go beyond um, go beyond the
Yeah.
beyond something that could be incorporated by your personality and by your environment, the people around you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, have we figured everything out?
We figure out that it's close,
That's close.
maybe. So we're gauging the distance right now.
Yeah, life is 95% figured out. Just like 5 more percent, and then
Mm-hmm.
everything will be perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think so.
Cool. Okay. I think I'm gonna end the broadcast.
Sounds good.